even have the book. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I quickly got this book, and it was 350 pages. And I was wondering, if I'm going to moderate, how is that going to be possible? So here's what it is. Here's the reason why I feel that this book is absolutely amazing, because I managed to read 150 pages in one day, which is quite a feat, not on my part, but on the part of the writer, that she engaged me so much so that I kept reading. And it's more of a feat because this is, as someone just mentioned, that probably the New York Times or someone said it was a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but I don't know if she would agree or not. I felt it was more of a representation of Pride and Prejudice. The story is very much there. We all know the same story, but it has been presented and packaged in a very South Asian Pakistani landscape with very South Asian and Pakistani language. Yet we can always connect it to Jane Austen's impeccable language as well. So I feel that yes, it is a representation, and the very first 3 pages can tell you the representation also. I would like to read those out to you later, and then of course Sonia will follow. Apart from that, I felt the book has that quality. Of course, the names, which I will have a question. If I wish you all had read a little bit of the books, you would understand that the questions are absolutely amazing. The names are absolutely amazing. Of course, we are always aware of Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Bennet and Darcy. They're all there, but of course with a different flavor to it. I wouldn't say very Pakistani flavor, but a very, very different flavor. Hence, I say not a retelling, but a representation of it. Then moving on to the landscape. It's a fictional land, Dalipabad, and but it is still something that you can relate to. As a teacher of creative writing, what I felt was, whenever I used to talk to my students, I would always say, we've always been schooled what a butterscotch cookie tastes like, or the Yorkshire pudding tastes like. Why don't we write and let the readers know what a samosa tastes like or a jalebi tastes like? And I have exercises where they write the flavors, and they use language to show what samosas taste like. And here is a book where in one line you have samosas and scones all together. And she is taking you to those delicious flavors of Pakistan, which is incredible too. Another reason is that you've all heard of Bride and Prejudice also. I'm sure you've been questioned regarding that. That, okay, was also a retelling per se of Pride and Prejudice. But the difference there, again, apart from the fact that there's no Aishwarya Rai here, the difference is that, yes, where we have so many replications of Bollywood, this has a Pakistani flavor to it, and there's no doubt about it. When I say the Pakistani flavor, I'm not saying the language, I'm saying the landscape, I'm saying not just the fact that there are Urdu words here, but the fact that there is a feeling of being part of this landscape. She not only introduces you to this landscape, she takes you in. You become part of that landscape. Not just because I'm Pakistani myself, but I feel that an outsider can, just the same way as we became part of Thomas Hardy's landscape, or even Jane Austen's landscape. It's different from Austenistan also, which I think she will probably be better off at telling us a little bit too. So we're not just then I come to the language also, which is interesting because Jane Austen's language is absolutely something that you feel that you're meandering through the words. You can actually get to the places that she's taking you, and the words, the wit. Here, Sonia's used wry wit, sarcasm. She's used all of that and very well packaged it in a very Austen language as well, which is an incredible task, because I was writing a draft for my novel, and there I had to write a letter between two characters in the 1920s and 30s, and I opted for a language. Not that I had to read Pride and Prejudice again or Jane Austen's work, it is just drilled into you. That language is drilled into you. So I use that language consciously. I see that here, but not as a conscious effort, because there is that contemporary effect there as well. The words have that contemporary tone too. The tone is absolutely something you will really fall in love with, because again, I said the wry wit, the sarcasm, the something each one of you will relate to, each one of you. And interestingly, as I was reading, I'm not going to give away the story, unmarriageable somehow seemed to strike as something for a woman, you know. But as I read along, it was a different scenario altogether. It was used for a man too, which is something to look forward to. Yes. So I will just read a couple of passages here, and then I will leave the floor to Sonia, of course. The reason I say it's representation is because we all know that famous quote. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a man with good fortune or a man in possession with good fortune is in want of a wife. That question was actually posed to me for
a single man.
Yeah, a single
Although
man.
in Pakistan it might be just...
Yes. And then here we have a widower as well. So that question was supposed to be for my enrollment exam PhD, and with it came 4 options. Which of these does this statement fall under? It was socioeconomic, political, psychological, psychosocial. This was one of the most difficult questions for me to answer, because how do you categorize this statement or any statement coming from a novel or a literary piece into one of these, because they're all, and I see all of this here. I see a psychosocial, I see political, because this is a very post-colonial novel in its essence as well. It has a Britishness to it, and yet it un-Britishes you too as well. She takes you away from the British quality of it. The British school is there as a stark reminder that we're part of the British education system, and at the same time you are taken back to your roots here. So it's post-colonial, politicalized here, and then you have the psychological effects of 10 perceptions, at least, if not more, of different women. It is not just one woman's perception of the notion of marriage and what comes around with it. It is multiple perspective of various women. Within the 5 sisters also, you get 5 different perspectives, as I assume. So that again is a very interesting delving into the psyche of not just the women, but also the men. There are 4 to 5 very important male characters here. Again, we all know the story. No one is not familiar with the story. It is again the familiar aspect of it, yet she defamiliarizes us with the names, which are very, very different, and with the new way of looking at marriage, the way Jane Austen did and the way we are looking at it. And that's where I'll just take you along with me. So she begins, and I